Now let's jump back to 2016. You eventually did make a decision along with Fox Crossing to hire Mandy Bartelt for the position of Human Resource Director, or Municipal Court Clerk?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. And during the time that you were leading up to the interview, did you guys talk on Facebook?
Oh, we did. There were a bunch of Facebook conversations. She gave me a little bit of her background. I had seen her work in the Allegheny County courthouse, and she appeared to be very professional, efficient. I would notice a tan on her every time she went somewhere for vacation. I called it a south of the border Mandy Bartelt tan.
Okay.
So, we conversed with each other.
You would talk about running with her?
Yes.
Do you recall you were in the hospital in approximately August of 2016? What happened with that?
I did the about 30 days, and the doctor let me go to the Lexian Village apartment that was reserved for bone marrow transplant patients, and so I did 30 days there, and then I went back to work. Well, sometimes when I was at Lexian Village, I would sneak back and do court dates because the voters didn't elect me to be a couch potato. I'm the village municipal judge, not the village couch potato. So I would go back. I would sneak out. I went to court several times rather than have the village pay for a substitute judge.
Okay. And when you were out, you would send messages to Mandy and let you know things were going on, communicate with her, check in?
Correct. We were in communication monthly, and I was doing some work that didn't require me to be in court, like signing documents and stuff and sending them back on my computer.
Could you look over that and just, you haven't been tell me if you're familiar with what that is?
Sure, that's some Facebook messages between Mandy Bartelt and me during August of 2016. That was a time when I had a second PICC line infection. I had gotten it, I just noticed it when I was on a routine visit to Freighter, and I did not go home that day, or for the next 3 weeks.
Could you read to the jury, looks like the first message is from Mandy at the top, and read through these messages explaining who's talking when.
Sure. This is Mandy. This is a picture of a cat with a rifle. So that is Bucky or Rascal, some emoticons. They better take care, good care of you down there, or else bah, and then some more emoticons. And then I responded, attachment unavailable. I'm not sure what happened. But then the next part from Mandy Bartelt, this was on August 10th, 2016. I hope your day is going well. I am so used to hearing from you, work or fun, and I haven't heard from you since this morning. So I'm having a glass of wine to cheers you for the best. I know it sounds funny, but I'm used to hearing for you during the day, so just concerned, Would you tell me, Mandy, Fido, and I will as soon as I hear how you're doing, exclamation point.
And then on the next page, it's Mandy again.
Correct. There's a picture of a glass of wine, and then below the glass of wine, it says, I know you wouldn't want me crying. You would want me to be strong, but I have been off and on all day, concerned since I hadn't heard from you, You have become my buddy. Okay, I know you're my boss, and I respect that, but you are my friend. Please keep me posted. Judge K. Okay, chat with you soon, Judge K.
Around September this time, you were going to be returning from the hospital, and you were planning a party for that?
Yeah, I actually got out of the hospital, I think, August 15th or something. Like 3 weeks for that second PICC line infection. And we had talked on Facebook Messenger about having a Judge K returns to Fox Crossing type party. So one night after court, I thought if we're to have it, I know holidays is where a lot of village the parties are held. So I said, Mandy, after we're done with court, when we go over to Mandy holidays, look it out, we each have one wine and go home. And that's what we did. We looked over at holidays. We decided, which room was going to work, because I'd been there before to case the place out, but I wanted her opinion also. So we looked at whether to rent a whole room or which room to rent. So yes.
Because you actually talked about planning that party on Facebook Messenger while you were in the hospital.
Correct, I did.
Okay. And then you ended up having that party a few days later?
Yes, it was the weekend of the Box Cities Marathon. So we had a gathering the Friday before, and my daughter was there. We flew in from Georgia along with a friend of hers who was also going to run the marathon. And Doug and Mandy and I were at the Holidays. I paid for it all, just to check the place out and reacquaint each other with each other, and it just seemed like a fun time to have.
Okay. Tell me where the term "the happy place" came from.
That came from Mandy Bartelt. She had explained to me numerous times, primarily during the Judge K challenge runs, how miserable she was in Allegheny County. She described her supervisor, Ms. Bosick, as calling her to the office and screaming at her, and that she left the office in Allegheny County crying. And I said, no, I'm not going to scream at you. We're not going to do that. And we also gone through other stuff. Some judges were known to do that I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to have her do any private legal work. I wasn't going to do personal errands for me and stuff like that. I said, we're going to have a fun, clean operation, and this will be your happy place.
So you said during a Judge K challenge run. What is a Judge K challenge run?
This was also one of Mandy's ideas, and it's kind of weird because I know the military has, running as sometimes a morale thing where you got PT in the morning and you run for 2 miles with somebody and talk about it. Mandy came up with this. And, it was right up my alley. So I said, sure, what time? Do it 4:30. Let me show you some routes around the village, and I'll show up and we'll run. So we had 4 of those.
In June of 2018, when Miss Mandy asked you how your day's going?
Yes.
Can you tell me what, at this time, you were still not supposed to be having non-work conversations, correct?
That's right. This was after the amended order that was entered by Judge Stengel, which is a de novo review of Court Commissioner Krieger's. And he said, the other order was kind of vague. He just said, the written order just said no harassing contact, and I don't know what the heck's that. I mean, I have a general idea, but it can be kind of fuzzy. But this one pretty specifically said in writing, no communication unless it's strictly necessary for the purposes of running municipal court. And I interpreted that to mean, that means no more of this, hi, how you doing sort of thing. That's kind of like a no-no, it's a personal conversation. And she walks into the court after this, I was in the courtroom, or in the court building, and in the office for purposes, I think, of a wedding or something. So she knew I was coming. I came in there for a wedding, nobody was in the office, so I picked up the wedding script and I was getting ready to do the wedding. She comes waltzing in, and then she says, how's it going, Judge? Something like that. And I just go, what the heck is this? I said, this is like an attempt to entrap me into violating it and getting myself arrested. I said, Mandy, this is just not appropriate under the judge's order, and she just left.
But it was just a friendly, how's it going, Judge?
But that's what it was, yes, it was, and, didn't show any fear or anything.
I'm going to jump ahead to June 29th. You put a poster, or you set a poster in your desk, a picture of Sturgill, and then you placed up a poster on the wall of the personnel manual. What was your purpose in putting that up?
Sure. What I was told during the course of those unsuccessful negotiations was that the village was not going to admit or state in any way that this was not a sexual harassment complaint, which I had said this is, I think I owe it to my wife to have this, because I'm loyal to her. And so I thought, Mandy Bartelt and Sturgill were the sources of it. I know Sturgill can't be talked into anything, but I thought maybe if Mandy Bartelt realized what the definition is, or if she was reminded of what the definition was, it might affect her position. Maybe we could settle it and I could resign with dignity. So I had copies of Chapter 27 of the Personnel Manual, and I put a blue yellow highlighter of the word sexual on that full copy of the personnel manual chapter, and just posted it using masking tape. Now the second one, the one for Sturgill was just frustrating me. He several times has said, "I am just here. I'm going to help you. I'm just trying to help you," and I didn't believe it. So I thought of, I thought of that phrase from Ronald Reagan and from the government, that "here to help you" is one of the biggest lies ever told.
You were aware during this time that Manny was upset, correct?
Oh yes.
But what in your mind is to be serious emotional distress? What does that mean to you?
I'm not sure. I've been in your shoes and tried a few stalking cases also. It would be, repeated crying, perhaps other kinds of chronic things like, I think what she suffered with Barb Bosick might have qualified, with hair coming out. And,
but during the time that you interacted with her, you didn't ever see her to be suffering what you thought to be serious emotional distress?
No, I saw her, upset. Just wanted to try to avoid me. So I didn't really see, I didn't see any crying. That's what I would have been looking for the most, and I didn't see it. And nobody told me about it until Lisa Malone did on the 7th of December. And nobody told me. I didn't know Doug Bartelt had been visiting her. Nobody told me about that either, even though she's my employee and she knows what's going on. No one told me about that until I read it in the criminal complaint for this case.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Kachinsky, could you describe what the average week in your job as the municipal court judge looked like when Sue Hermes was employed?
When Sue Hermes was employed, I was working on a full-time basis by law practice. So typically, I would go to the municipal court building for court appearances. Only occasionally, a few other times. Sometimes I would have other business, like buying tags for my cats. I would see it then. I wasn't there that often. That's correct.
So primarily, it was court nights, and that was about it.
Yes.
Okay. Is it your position today that this all started based on a misunderstanding on how Facebook Nearby Friends works?
I think that was a major factor. We had the thing with the Facebook post that I made that I probably shouldn't have, although there wasn't any intention to do anything. I didn't see how anybody could question the stability of somebody's marriage based upon that post, although Mandy testified they did. So the misunderstanding regarding the alleged following or tracking of Barb Strobel, I think, was definitely the linchpin that knocked all this off.
And you did attempt on more than one occasion to educate Mandy on how that app or how that function worked. Is that
yes,
accurate?
I did. Okay. Yes, I did.
But despite that, you were aware that she continued to, in your opinion, misunderstand how this works.
Either misunderstand or didn't want to understand. I don't know what it was.
Okay. Can you see how someone who might misunderstand this would be, for lack of better words, creeped out by that?
Oh, someone that misunderstood it and didn't explain it. And if someone that you had a good personal rapport with and trusted you getting freaked out, I couldn't see.
Now, this is March of 2017. Let's jump ahead. About this time, did you put a post up about her being on vacation?
Well, yes. While she was gone, she's with Doug. This is her vacation away from the boss. I don't want to ruin that. And before she left, she said, this is Doug and me. The kids are going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa Strobel. I said, that's cool. It sounds to me like second honeymoon. You got 5 and a 7-year-old, and you're off alone in Florida or something. So I considered it to be a second honeymoon. Maybe it technically wasn't. She never used the term. I just going to use that term.
Okay. And so at some point you explain.
Oh.
Explain what on Facebook there's your page, correct?
Correct.
And other people have pages.
Correct.
And when people can post on pages?
It's a friend's, if you set the settings that a friend can post on your page, yes.
Okay. So when you put something on Facebook, was it a post you put up, or was it another post? Can you explain the drill?
Sure. What I did was I was just checking Mandy's Facebook page every now and then just to see if she was having fun in Florida. She might post a picture of something. I didn't know if she would or not. But I think toward the end of her vacation, I saw somebody else that I didn't even know, it must have been a friend of hers, post something like, Mandy, we haven't heard from you. Are you okay? Something like that. And I saw well, Mandy's okay. I don't know what the problem is here, but I thought, well, at least I don't know Mandy's okay as far as we know. I think, Mandy's on a second honeymoon in an undisclosed location now. She had been telling people where this was, but I didn't want to tell this person who it was, or let Mandy do that. And of course, in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have just done anything at all, but that's what I did.
Surprised by that. At some point in June, you become aware that Mandy doesn't want to talk to you outside of work, correct?
Yes.
Maybe June, July, in that time frame.
Yes, and there was, first of all, the first problem was it appeared she just wanted to be concentrated, the non-talk outside of work, in the workplace, and it was okay for stuff that there was, important to do personal emails or Facebook messages that were out of court, which explains the stuff when I'm talking about parties. But after that, yes.
Okay. And so then, after that point, your goal in having meetings with her was that you felt like your office couldn't function without having at least basic human communication.
Correct. I mean, it's nice to have someone that does an excellent job in the tasks of a court clerk, and the tasks of a court clerk were described by Ms. Bartelt in her testimony, getting properly accounting for the money, sending out the forfeitures, deciding on collection actions with state debt collection, getting the citations from the police department, setting up the agenda for courts, open records requests, other things that come into the court. But in addition to being able to perform the mechanical tasks, being a municipal court clerk is not like being an assembly line worker at Plexus or Oshkosh Defense. You're also sort of the alter ego of the judge, just like a judicial assistant for a circuit court judge. And I thought some kind of rapport, we can't, and defining what's work and not work, can be real difficult. I mean, usually I throw stuff in more kind of work communications, like, hope you have a good weekend, or, you had a good workout, stuff like that. So you mix personal and business all the time, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
This is the defendant, Len Kachinsky, on the stand. We're continuing to watch some of his testimony. Today, a jury acquitted him of stalking his law clerk. We're going to continue to watch this testimony. Take a look. Here's Len Kachinsky on the stand in his own defense.
When the administration got involved, do you think they started to help the situation or hurt it?
Well, the mediation and what Lisa Malone did that caused the May 3rd understanding this in evidence, I thought it was great. I thought this would solve it, certainly Mandy doesn't want to be a close friend anymore. That's her prerogative. I think we need some low level of personal relationship, just to make it go, because there's it's something I learned in the Army and our leadership style. You need to know your people.
Okay. Now, just to jump back, you would communicate with Mandy outside work. She actually sent you more information about the job than Sue Hermes had when she was there. Kept you more updated?
Oh, definitely, yes. One thing Sue would, when Mandy took over, the first thing I did was, just before I left for Freighter, I told Mandy, as soon as Sue's out of here, you go over to finance and tell them what they want to fix up with cash management, because there's been an audit, and for several years they've been telling us to improve it. So I think she did that, probably one of her first days there. So we didn't have to relearn systems. We communicated, and we had basically, my plan was, Sue during her last couple of years was, did the work necessary. She was a good friend. But I knew we needed modernization, and she was not real enthusiastic about doing it when she's close to retirement. So we worked on the office was improved in many ways with my approval and discussing it with Ms. Bartelt.
Okay, so now, I'm going to take a little jump here, because things didn't seem to settle down over the next couple months, correct?
Absolutely.
It continued to be an issue where there was continued involuntary monitoring of the courthouse, or of your interactions with Ms. Bartell.
Yes.
Now, in December, you made an effort to try to fix this situation, correct?
Well, yes. I mean, there was just no communication. I had no idea what was going on through her head, this whole period, basically. It was just show up. She wasn't going to talk to me. She was usually out in the courtroom with, she's got a link that she can...
But the administration got involved. Do you think they started to help the situation or hurt it?
Well, the mediation and what Lisa Malone did that caused the May 3rd understanding this in evidence, I thought it was great. I thought this would solve it, certainly Mandy doesn't want to be a close friend anymore. That's her prerogative. I think we needed some low level of personal relationship, just to make it go. Because I mean, there's it's something I learned in the Army and our leadership style. You need to know your people.
Okay. Now, just to jump back, you would communicate with Mandy outside work. She actually sent you more information about the job than Sue Hermes had when she was there. Kept you more updated?
Oh, definitely, yes. One thing Sue would, when Mandy took over, there were first thing I did was, just before I left for Freighter, I told Mandy, as soon as Sue's out of here, you go over to finance and tell them what they want to fix up with cash management, because there's been an audit, and for several years she's been telling us to improve it. So I think she did that, right? Probably one of her first days there. So she didn't have to relearn systems. So yeah, we communicated, and we had basically, my plan was, Sue during her last couple of years was, did the work necessary. She was a good friend, but I knew we needed modernization, and she was not real enthusiastic about doing it when she was close to retirement. So we worked on the office was improved in many ways with my approval and discussing it with Ms. Bartell.
Okay, so now I'm going to take a little jump here because things didn't seem to settle down over the next couple of months, correct?
Absolutely.
It continued to be an issue where there was continued involuntary monitoring of the courthouse, or of your interactions with Ms. Bartell.
Yes.
Now, in December, you made an effort to try to fix this situation, correct?
Well, yes. I mean, there was just no communication. I had no idea what was going on through her head, this whole period, basically. It was just show up. She wasn't going to talk to me. She was usually out in the courtroom with, she's got a link that she can operate everything in her computer in the office in the courtroom. And it was good. That came in, I think, in August or something of 2016. So, yeah, there was really no communication. So I had no idea what this was doing to her or if there was any problems. I didn't hear about a lot of things. And then on the 7th of December during the court night, she was out there, that is, Mandy was out there, and Lisa Malone took me aside and told me, we got to look at what's going on here, the human side. This is really taking a toll on Mandy, that she's crying and talking about disputes and arguments with her husband and other things. And I wasn't totally surprised, but I thought, I didn't know this stuff was going on. It sounds as bad from what you're telling me, as bad as it was with Barb Bosick.
Okay, so you started trying to do nice things for that month?
I decided to have what I called a charm offensive. And I just looked for as many things as I could do to show that I still cared about her in spite of everything. And when somebody has a boss they think cares about them, they'll perform better and they'll feel better. So I had a number of things I did. First of all, I think one day it had snowed again during the day, and people's cars were full of snow on them. So I went over to the municipal building about 4:20 or so, just before people left. Got my snow brush out and brushed off Mandy's car and then a few other people's cars, Lisa Malone's, and I think George Dearborn's, and a few others.